If you look at these little puff pastry cakes here, the fine layers, the clean structure and this creamy filling made from vanilla cream and buttercream, it always looks like a lot of work. These pastries are part of a classic Napoleon cake filled with a crème mousseline, which means vanilla cream with butter folded into it. And the puff pastry used for these pieces is not a classic French or German puff pastry, but a quick puff pastry, or as it is often called in culinary training, Dutch puff pastry. And that is exactly what I'm going to show you today, step by step. We start in the most classic way with the flour. It goes straight into the bowl of the stand mixer. At the same time, I take cold water, add salt and optionally a bit of sugar. The sugar is not essential, you can leave it out without any problem. But it has one small advantage: when baking it caramelizes slightly and gives the puff pastry a nicer color later on. Now I dissolve the salt and sugar completely in the cold water. This takes a moment, but it is important, because this dough will only be mixed very briefly later, and if salt or sugar are still crystalline, they would not distribute evenly in the dough. Once everything is dissolved, the cold water goes into the flour. The machine now runs only very briefly, 1 minute, at most 2, just long enough for the dough to come together. That is all it needs. At this point, many people do something different. They already add the full amount of butter and briefly mix it into the dough. You can do that. It is a common method and it works, but here I am deliberately showing the version the way I learned it during my culinary training, and in this method the butter is not mixed in but incorporated later. Now I take care of the butter. It comes straight from the fridge and is cut into slices. These slices are then cut once more crosswise so that small flat pieces of butter are created. The dough is now lightly floured and rolled out, not perfectly straight, not to the exact millimeter. The only important thing is not to use too much flour. Once the dough is rolled out, I remove any excess flour and spread the butter pieces evenly over it. Ideally, the surface is almost completely covered. Now the laminating begins. I first fold the lower half upwards, then the upper half downwards and close the dough like a book. This is already the first double turn. The butter is still cold, the dough is cool, so I continue working right away. I lightly flour and roll the dough out again. Again I fold from top to bottom, from bottom to top, and close the dough like a book. This is the second double turn. Now I roll the dough out again, and at this point one thing is absolutely crucial. Before folding the dough, I go over it with a brush and remove every single bit of flour between the layers. Flour between the layers will later prevent the puff pastry from rising cleanly. So remove the flour, fold, close like a book. This is the third double turn. Now you slowly notice that the butter becomes soft in some spots, it starts to smear slightly, and this is exactly the moment that determines whether the puff pastry will work later or not. I immediately wrap the dough in baking paper and place it in the fridge or in the chiller for about 15 to 20 minutes. It should not freeze, the butter just needs to firm up again. After the chilling time we continue, lightly flour the work surface, roll out the dough, Before making the final turn, I once again go over the surface with a brush and remove all the flour completely. Then I fold the open sides towards the center, remove flour again, fold the other side to the center, and close everything like a book. This is the fourth and final double turn. Once more, remove all flour from the top, and with that our quick puff pastry is finished, without long waiting times, without complicated butter blocks, but still with clearly defined layers. If you are interested in classic French or German puff pastry, I will link the corresponding video for you up here. There I explain the differences in detail and also show why the folding is done differently there. Now the dough goes back into baking paper and is frozen. That way you can use it at any time. When I want to use it later, I roll it out to about 1 centimeter thick, depending on the application, sometimes a bit thinner. Then I cut it into the desired shape and bake it at a high initial heat. This is important. Puff pastry must go cold into a hot oven. The moisture in the dough evaporates, the steam lifts the layers, and that is exactly how this typical flakiness is created. If you want to see how this puff pastry looks in practice, for example in these Napoleon pastries here, make sure to watch the video about the Napoleon cake. There you can see the pastry in cross-section and how it behaves when you eat it. If you enjoy classic techniques from culinary training, feel free to subscribe to the channel. This is about clean craftsmanship, clear explanations, and recipes that truly work.